You have to remember that exercise helps improve physical health, mental health, confidence, stress management, so many other things outside the world of just looking good. But it does also make you look good. So the way that I have it, you're getting 8 hours of sleep. So now we're running off less. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, but I don't need that much sleep. Like, okay, to each his own. If you don't buy the food, you can't eat the food. And if you don't prepare the food, then convenience will win. And we want to avoid that in 2 simple steps. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Bondi on Cheer, or welcome to Bondi on Cheer. My name is Bondi, and here we have honest conversations about coaching, business leadership, and long-term athlete development. So today we are going to build a nutrition system together. And before we talk about food, we need to talk about something even bigger: the structure and routines that make up our everyday life. And the reason we need to talk about those is because nutrition doesn't exist in a vacuum. It lives within the structure of your day. So if you don't have structure to your day, then you don't have nutrition. The 5 major routines of life, or what I call the requisite routines you might have heard me talk about before, are sleep, nutrition, exercise, career and or school, depending on where you're at in life, and leisure. That's it. And every single day, whether you're aware of it or not, you're allocating your time and energy to one of these 5 buckets. Sleep comes first, and that's for obvious and good reason. We can't live without it. We have to sleep. There's no way around it. I just bumped into a woman on the plane the other day when I was going out to California. And she was like, oh, I was like, what do you do research in? Because we started talking. She was like, oh, circadian rhythm. And I was like, oh, cool, like clock genes. And she was like, yeah. I was like BMAL 1. And she was like, yeah, what? And I was like, I used to work with a guy at FSU who that's what his field of research was. So it was funny because it's a whole area of research that really has a lot to be elucidated. There's a lot going on there. But anyways, the important thing there is that it impacts your hormones, your recovery, your mood, your energy, your focus, your appetite, and even your genetic expression. In many ways, sleep is like the operating system. And when the operating system starts to fail, then all of the apps start to crash. So without sleep, we could look at it as us having a bunch of apps that do different things. And those apps start to not function. So then we start to not function because the operating system's cooked when we don't sleep. Then we have nutrition sitting right on top of sleep. And again, we have to eat. So just like we have to sleep, we have to eat and drink. We can't live without it. There's no avoiding it. So that's why I put it second. Now, the question is, do we eat intentionally or we just eat reactively? I.e., do we just eat whatever's in front of us when we're hungry, what we can grab and what's most convenient? Or are we planning ahead and are we trying to factor nutrition into the structure of our day? That distinction is extremely important. Then, of course, we have exercise, another non-negotiable if you ask me. It's kind of like sleeping and eating and drinking water. You need to exercise, or at least you should look at it as something that you absolutely need to survive and to live. Not even to survive. Not even to thrive, but just to survive. The exercise benefits beyond aesthetic are profound. There's so many of them. The aesthetics, to me, sit somewhere in the middle. Yes, I like to look good, but it's not the reason I'm working out. You have to remember that exercise helps improve physical health, mental health, confidence, stress management, so many other things outside the world of just looking good. But it does also make you look good. So now, career or school. This one's extremely important because this is where we spend most of our waking hours. This is what most of our time and energy is dedicated to. Because whether or not we're studying or we're working, typically you're working 40 hours a week. The 9 to 5 or the 8 to 4 or the 8 to 5 or whatever you work, that takes up the majority of your day. So because it takes up so much time, it plays a very vital role in our ability to structure our sleep, nutrition, and exercise. And last but not least, leisure, the most misunderstood of the bunch. The Greek word for leisure was actually skole. I think it's pronounced. I could be butchering it. Sorry to anybody who's Greek. I do have a eudaimonia tattoo that I recently got, if that makes up for it, if I'm saying this wrong. But skole was the Greek word for school. To the ancient Greeks, leisure wasn't mindless entertainment. It was intentional time spent learning, improving, and working on yourself. Nowadays, leisure often turns into drinking, partying, doom scrolling on social media, not at all what the ancient Greeks had in mind when it came to leisure. And while there is a time and place for relaxation, leisure time should leave you better than it found you. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. We'll dive into that at some point in time, I'm sure. So why am I bringing any of this up? Bondi, I thought we were talking about nutrition. That's a fair question. I'm going to tell you. These 5 requisite routines are what make up the framework of your entire life. If you don't consciously organize all of them, they will compete with each other. And when that happens, sadly, what we see is that sleep, nutrition, and exercise tend to take the back seat to career and leisure. You stay up too late, you skip meals, you grab fast food, you'll get back on track next week, and next week turns into next month, into next year, and before you know it, you literally lived a life centered around career and shitty leisure, where you're just drinking, partying, hanging out, doom scrolling. And this is exactly why structure matters, because structure is freedom. When you have structure, you have the ability to prioritize these items, or at the very least, make sure that they're not wrongfully competing against one another and leaving you to sacrifice those that are the most beneficial, arguably. Good routines don't restrict your life. It just removes decision fatigue. It's very liberating when you have a good structure and a good routine in place. And just like brushing your teeth, you don't think whether or not to do it. You just do it. It's a habit. You do it every day. You do it twice a day. We want sleep, nutrition, and exercise to be just like brushing your teeth. It's not something that you have to forego because this took longer than you thought, or you haven't had time to relax. It's just automatic. It's just something you do. It's just part of daily maintenance. So let's just paint a scenario really quick to show you all. I'm trying to uncover where people go wrong, because they always think that it's not the diet to fit them. It's not this. They didn't hear to that. It needs to be Whole30, not Atkins, or I should be on paleo or paleo 2.0. I should be eating vegan. It isn't any of that. And I've already talked about this, but what we're trying to do is start building a nutrition or eating routine. And with that comes the requisite routines, all the others, because we need to make sure that we're not just focused on one, but rather taking a holistic approach with them. So let's say we wake up at 7 o'clock, okay? We have to be at work at 9, and to do so, be there on time, we got to leave at 8:30, all right? That gives us an hour and a half. Now, assuming you want to wake up and make your coffee and get dressed and maybe shower and pack up your food for the day, you don't really have a lot of time, especially if you have kids or you're working on a side project. Like, you don't have a lot of time. Let's say then we work from 9 until 5, and we got a 30-minute commute home. So it's 5:30 when we get home, okay? By the time we get home, just to decompress, to change, to cook food, eat dinner, whatever, let's just say it's another hour and a half, roughly. All right, I'm factoring in, we're not very efficient beings. So you're on your phone, you're having conversations, but you're fairly efficient. So let's just say another 90 minutes. All right, now we got home at 5:30, it puts us at 7 o'clock. So if we assume that this is our routine, we only really have, 3 hours of like leisure time, because in the morning we're doing things like getting ready, getting dressed, showering, things we have to do, maybe getting the kids ready, whatever, walking the dog. When we get home, again, cooking dinner, maybe we need to cook dinner for our partner and our family. We got to take the kids somewhere. You could see how the 7 o'clock to 10:30, 3.5 hours can be eaten up like that. I mean, you watch a movie, you watch a TV show, you want to read a book, you want to work out. That's when that stuff happens. Now, maybe you work out in the morning, but all you're doing is shifting that 3.5 hours. You're shifting some amount of that time to the beginning of the day, but you're going to start sacrificing something somewhere. So if you're waking up earlier and you're going to bed later, the way that I have it, you're getting 8 hours of sleep. So now we're running off less. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, but I don't need that much sleep. Like, okay, to each his own, fair. But you have to realize that everything has a sacrifice. You say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. You're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And that's a really important thing to realize in your life. The takeaway from all of that is that if you don't allocate your time to things will allocate your time for you. And when you find yourself in that scenario, it's not you living your life or making your decisions. Life is just happening to you. And this is where people always come up with I don't have any time. That's why I'm not working out. That's why I hopped off that program. That's why my nutrition's been slipping. I don't have time. No, you just lack priorities. You're not allocating the right amount of time to the right things. Sleep, nutrition, exercise. You cannot go without. You need to prioritize them. So if that means shifting things around to be able to get them in, make it work, make it a priority. Okay, so let's get into grocery shopping day. I know I rambled for a little bit. We're going to tie this all in. We're going to bring it all home, and we're going to build a nutrition system that runs like a business, where grocery shopping in the grocery store is like procurement. That's where you're getting your material or your ingredients to be able to make your product. All right, that product then goes inside the refrigerator. That's your inventory. And if anything breaks down along that chain, the supply chain there, then the output's going to suffer. And that's when we're going to fall prey to eating in the second degree or in the third degree. There are two parts to it. You have grocery shopping day and you have meal preparation day. If you don't buy the food, you can't eat the food. And if you don't prepare the food, then convenience will win. And we want to avoid that in two simple steps. You need to pick a day, a time, a grocery store, and you need to make a list. This list needs to account for how much time you have to cook, what your commute to work looks like, whether or not work has a refrigerator, a microwave. This will help you create a list of food that you know what to do with. And then, of course, we also have to buy things that we're realistically going to eat. You can't just go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of healthy food or food that you deemed healthy or somebody online deemed healthy. You need to buy food that you'll actually eat. This is where balance comes in. We need to be smart about it. We need to try to lean towards whole foods, but you can't just get a bunch of food that you're going to put in the fridge because it looks good to have, but you're not actually going to eat it. Hey everybody, surprise, it's Bondi again. I don't know how, but I didn't list the second step of the two-step process of structure behind nutrition in the system. So grocery shopping day and meal prep day. I kind of jumped over meal prep day somehow. I don't know. So anyways, instead of just being like, hey, sorry, I skipped over it, I wanted to actually make a quick video that I could just plug in here while I was editing. So there's two parts. The first part is grocery shopping day, which I talk about. So you need to pick a day, you need to pick a time, a place, make a list, all of that. And then the second part is meal prep day. The important thing there is that without meal prep day, grocery shopping day is kind of pointless, because if we go buy a bunch of food that we can use to make nice high quality meals with, but we don't pick a day and time to make nice high quality meals, then we're going to find that things come up. We lose time, and then we have raw chicken sitting in the fridge that we're like, well, I can't take that to work with me, so I'm going to grab lunch out. Or we have, meat here that we haven't cooked or vegetables that we haven't cooked, and I got to go get the kids. I don't have time to cook, so I'm just going to stop and grab food on the way to get them or on the way home. Right? So grocery shopping day needs meal prep day in order for us to have this full system. So that's why I say two steps. Step one is grocery shopping day. Step two is meal preparation day. You got to pick a day, you got to pick a time, and you got to make it happen so that you can just grab those nicely prepared, high quality meals throughout the week on your way to work, on your way to kids' practice, or as an athlete on the way to practice, on the way to school, from school to practice, all that good stuff. All right, so that's it. That's the second step. Don't know how that happened, but anyways, back to the rest of the podcast. So at the end of the day, we all have the same 24 hours. The goal is not perfection. The goal is balance. And balance starts with putting yourself in control. Now, in order to do that, we have to be cognizant of the 5 requisite routines we talked about today. You need to plan and you need to prioritize, starting from the bottom up. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, career, and leisure. Get the foundation right and everything becomes easier. Get the foundation wrong and everything gets harder, more difficult, more stressful, more time-consuming, energy-consuming. Nutrition is not about willpower. It's about systems. And good systems create good habits. That's it. We start with prioritizing so that we have structure, so that we can plan, so that we can execute on that plan. That's nutrition. All right, everybody, that's been another episode of Bondi Edge here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. This is part of the nutrition series. We are going to get more specific. So I'm going to dive into macronutrients and calorie math and determining how much, and using an energy calculator that I have created in a Google Sheet that you can get. We're going to have the nutrition books coming out. I'm going to talk about how your body works and overview of metabolism and bioenergetics and cellular health and fueling for exercise and competition and performance and all of that. But we cannot look over the fact that this right here, the systems, the structure, the routines, the planning, that is what allows for any of what I just said to even matter. Okay? So, until the next episode, You guys have fun, be safe, and I'll see you soon.